guys, I am here at Spring Harvest and I am really excited about the next episode of Another Mother that is coming up. It is with mother-daughter duo, Cathy and Izzy Madavan. Their conversation is so good. It is all about how you build a good bond of trust with your children and within your family. And if you, like me, want to have a really good relationship with your kids when they grow up, then this episode is a must listen or a must watch if you watch our podcast on YouTube. So yeah, check it out wherever you usually get your podcasts or watch on YouTube, and we'll see you there. Hello everyone, and welcome back to Another Mother. This is a faith and parenting podcast by My Spring Harvest with me, Emma Francis. I am a mum of two little ones. I've got Ezra, who is 5, and Hallie, who is 2. And I guess like all of us have experienced in some way or another, life can be unpredictable. It is full of ups and downs and curveballs, especially when you've got kids. So these conversations are where I get to chat to other people about their experiences as a family, navigating faith and life together. And we love that you get to join us for these conversations. So I hope that this encourages you in some way and gives you a bit of joy and strength for your day, wherever it is that you find yourself. So today I am very excited to be joined by not one, but 2 guests. I've got Cathy and Izzy Madavan.
Oh, hey! Glad to be here.
You are the mother-daughter duo. We've actually never had a mother-daughter duo on before.
Yes.
So I've been first.
Smashing it.
The
First one.
debut.
Yeah.
I love it. And we're all here at Spring Harvest.
Yes.
You've done 2 weeks of Spring Harvest. So you did both Skegness and Minehead. And you've been involved with Spring Harvest for many years. Can you tell us a bit about what you do here?
So I'm really, I guess I just started off as a speaker back in the day when the kids were very small, like, 2 and 4 probably, or no, probably even younger.
Yeah, I think it was 0.
Yeah, been dragging them in prams to start with. And I've done seminars and speaking, and now I'm on the planning group that helps to organise the themes and the teaching. We love it. Yeah. We are fully signed up fan club members of.
The merch.
I've got the merch.
Got the merch, yeah.
It's just a great family festival. It's great for families to come and feel like they're getting a bit of a holiday, but actually spiritual refreshment as well, build friendships, just have a great time with Jesus, with others. What's not to love?
And it's so nice that you get to share this now. Obviously, you've always shared it as a family, bringing your kids along when they're little, but you're also very now involved with Spring Harvest. So you're hosting, aren't you, on... Tell us about what you're doing.
Well, in the evenings, I'm doing the Spring Harvest Home, which is the live stream, which goes into like the homes and also prisons and homeless shelters and all that stuff, which is pretty cool. And then in the morning, I'm hosting some of the morning Bible study. So just some bits and bobs, taken after my mother.
That's so good. I love it. And there's more of your family as well, not just you two. So your dad, your husband, is here on site as well, isn't he? And is he also involved with like speaking and stuff?
Yes, yeah. Mark's a church pastor, and last year we actually wrote the theme for Spring Harvest, which was great, but he's speaking on site and doing some leadership bits and pieces as well. So that's great. Our other daughter's not here this year, but she couldn't take enough time off work. But yeah, she's in London working away.
She had to like pick her priority.
Yeah, and probably holidays with mates, 1.
Yes, okay, fair.
Not bitter about it though. Yeah. She's okay.
Do you like working together? Would you call this work together? What would you call it?
I don't know whether it's work. I can't feel serving. I actually love it, like, because I couldn't be more proud. I always think for Izzy being younger, I think sometimes doing things with your mum and dad in the room is it a bit more intimidating if we weren't there?
Yeah, I prefer it when she's not in the room.
Okay.
Like, you're great.
Thanks.
But like, I feel like I can be more like, okay, I'm not being watched by my mum. If she's not. But you've been in the room quite a lot this week. I've been proud of myself.
Have you worked through that?
I have worked through that.
Thank you.
I know what you mean though, because I think I'm a bit like that with my family. Like, I think it's like when someone's watched you grow up, you feel like you have to like be in the box of what their vision is of you. And then if you want to be a bit more like, then you feel like they're looking at you like, that's not you. And you're like, no, it's me. It's me now.
Yeah. I used to be, even like at church, if I was like on the worship team or something, I'd get more shy if you were watching me. But I'm getting there.
Yeah. Well, it is strange, isn't it? Like doing things in front of your family. But You know,
Yeah.
it's great seeing your kids grow up and do things. I mean, that's what
so
you want,
good.
isn't it, really?
She laughs at my jokes. That's good.
I do.
That is
If
good.
this morning I made a joke on stage and I could hear Mum laughing the loudest.
Yeah.
Oh, and that's what you need in life, you know? You need someone to
it's
just
a good
support
joke.
you and laugh at your jokes.
Yeah.
That's good. Because how old are you now, Izzy?
I'm 24.
24. And you have totally flown the nest.
I have.
So you're now living away from your parents. You've done uni already.
Yeah.
And now just
Now I'm in London
away.
as an adult,
Yes.
I guess.
Okay.
You had a child by this age, but that's fine. I don't need a child by this age.
Yeah, how do you feel that's like that? Does that feel like a pressure? Like you've got a
No. I think growing up, because you got engaged at 19, married at 20, so I thought that was normal. And then now I've become those ages. I'm like, what the heck were you doing?
I mean, in hindsight, that was definitely not normal, was it?
No, well, yeah.
Really?
So I'm so okay, but that wasn't my reality.
Yes, and you're just having fun. You're living your life. You've got all your friends.
Exactly. And my sister's in the same position. So she is 27. So also in London and just working things out. So we've got each other, which is nice.
That's good. And I love that you guys have just like a really nice, fun relationship. I think like as a parent, you're looking at each other like, but I think as a parent, that is every parent's dream, to be like, when your kids grow up, they actually like you. Because not every child likes their parent as they get older. You do have to
get through the teenage years and then come out the other side.
Yes. Have there been times that the relationship has been more challenging? Like what age?
I mean, to be fair, I think we got off pretty lightly with our girls. So I don't want to do smug parenting because there are just no guarantees as a parent, and you can be the best parent in the world and things can go wrong. So, you know, but we have been very fortunate, I think, with the girls. But I mean, having said that, I think that, you know, there are wrestles in the teenage years and that's supposed to happen. They're asserting their independence, aren't they? And, you know, they're becoming their own person and wanting to do their own things. And that is you know, you kind of just got to loosen the elastic out a little bit, but that can be painful, I think. But so, yeah, there were definitely times when, you know, I'd be the last to know what was going on in their lives quite often. You know, their friends knew, sisters knew, and you as a mum, that's hard because you feel a bit excluded. You feel like, oh, that, you know, that little child that little hand that used to trust me and tell me everything, and I'm not that person to them anymore. And that is hard, especially if they make decisions that you're not like, oh gosh, I wouldn't have done that. You know, I wouldn't have chosen that GCSE, or I wouldn't have. But you've got to kind of go through that a little bit, I think, so that they can become adults you get on well with.
Do you feel like you had to like hold your tongue a bit, like when it's like, I wouldn't have chosen that GCSE? Would you say that, or would you just not say that?
I'm interrupting already.
You interrupt.
I remember looking around my A-level, like college, and we looked at the courses that you would have liked to do. And we were in like a psychology one for half an hour. And I was leaning on my dad and genuinely fell asleep, stood up. But Mum was like, that's so interesting, you should look at that. And I was like, no, that's not for me. But we were all right.
We got there in the end. Yeah, we did have like a few kind of like, what do you want to be doing things.
Also, who knows what I want to do?
Yeah, but that is the hard thing with teenagers. They're having to make big decisions quite quickly.
Yeah.
And you feel like you know them better than anyone, but you also know it is their life at that point.
Yeah. And one of my A-levels, I genuinely chose because my dad was like, I think you would like that, like product design. Bit random. My A-levels were maths, graphic design, and I didn't know what the third one to do. And he was like, that product design was like a mixture of both of them. And so I really enjoyed it, didn't I?
Yeah,
and so I literally chose that because you guys were like, we genuinely think you'd really enjoy that one.
Oh, that's good. So you took their wisdom a bit.
Yeah, didn't do psychology. Mum was like, it's so interesting. I was like, no.
Got to go. I mean, I suppose you try to go more into coach mode, where you're asking questions to help them come to conclusions rather than just saying the answer is. You know, well, how do you feel about that? What would the pluses and minuses be? Or, gosh, like, what are the red flags in a friendship for you then? And, you know, just trying to kind of help them to think critically a bit more for themselves rather than just wading in, well, they're a bad friend because, or that would be a bad decision, in my opinion. And you know, coaches can still give their opinions or share their skills, but you kind of...
I still knew which friend she didn't like.
Yeah, well, and was I right? Yeah.
Yeah.
In hindsight, you're like, okay,
okay,
fine, you're
nice.
right. Oh, but no, I think it's finding that balance, isn't it? By not being too standoffish as a parent, where you're just like, oh, just do whatever you want. Because as like a child growing up in a family, you also do almost want their advice and guidance sometimes, but then you don't always want it. No. So it's that kind of, getting the right balance.
Well, especially if they get older. I know your kids are younger, but you know, that whole thing about helicopter parenting, where like you're hovering over them all the time and wading in. You know, when they become teenagers, you've kind of, if they forget their PE kit or if they're having problems at school, the temptation is, if you've been a really caring, almost helicoptery parent, is to always go in and rescue them, to always go in and fight their battles at school with the other parents or the children. But there comes a point where you're like, no, they've got to stand on their own 2 feet. They've got to live with the consequences if they've not got their home ec stuff, if they haven't brought their PE kit in. At some point, they've got to learn to...
We forgot our PE kits
all the time,
and there was the food man. And actually, you know what? She was a champ. She did. You drove in food tech ingredients so many times for us.
Emergency Tesco dash.
Well done.
I need the ingredients for a Victoria sponge now.
I forgot to tell you, hi mum, this morning we're making some lasagna. And you're like, great.
I didn't know you had to bring your own ingredients to food tech.
Oh, you've got so much ahead of you.
Whoa. I feel like we didn't even do food tech properly at my school. It was awful.
I made a cheesecake once. That was a really good cheesecake.
It was a good cheesecake, worth the emergency Tesco dash.
Yeah. Never baked it since. But.
And I guess you guys have got quite a unique element to your family as well, in that your husband, Mark, your dad, is blind. And so as a parent, you kind of, I guess the roles are slightly different in terms of you would have to do a lot of like practical things. But then it's so great that in the same way, like your dad is still able to come with you everywhere with like your A-level thing and give such insight into your life, and it hasn't like affected anything in terms of your like parenting relationship with him.
Yeah, I mean, I've got a great relationship with my dad.
So good.
And I remember talking to one of my friends recently where they were like, you've got the strongest relationship with a dad that I've ever heard any of my friends have, which I was like, wow. And of course I would love him to see, but at the same point, he's so present and so a key part of my life that I'd much rather him not being able to see, but being there. So,
wow.
Well, and the little things like the fact that he needs guiding means that often the girls will be, if not holding his hands, but they'll be linked arms. And I've often thought when I've been, watched them walking along, how many teenagers, are linking arms with their dad or whatever, and that physical intimacy of having to guide him. Actually is a bit of a bonding thing as well. And again, like Izzy said, you'd never choose that for someone you love. But I love that the girls have got so much empathy for people with additional needs, people that other people might feel awkward around. Like the girls have just grown up thinking, not that it's normal, but that it's not unusual.
Normal. It was normal.
Yeah.
So, like, it's not that I think you've had to learn that he's become blind, if that makes sense, because he wasn't. He wasn't. Where I've always grown up being like, oh, my dad's blind. And that's just the fact of the reality. So I didn't have to like learn it as much. It just was the truth.
Yeah.
So, but it's different because it means that sometimes I have to be his strength and his support, which is, and from a younger age, I think is a bit different. Normally it's the parent is always the strength. And sometimes there's conversations where I have to be a bit more of an adult towards you. But I think definitely with, when you guys go through stuff or whatever, and with dad's sight, there's moments where I have to be more of the help.
Yeah.
It's weird, but it's nice.
Yeah, it's just a part of your life and it makes you part of who you are as well, which is beautiful. And I guess, so for you, growing up in your family, you and your husband were both in ministry. So that added another dynamic, probably a busy house. A lot of people in the house all the time.
Yeah, we did, and we still do, but they're not in this house anymore since we've moved. But yes, we have always had a busy house, and we have had to sometimes draw some boundaries around that.
I think you're always quite good at the house. It was more like a peaceful place as well, like a real I remember being at church a lot more than loads of people at our house. Like there were moments of people at your house, but I remember my memories of childhood and church life as being at church. All my dreams, even now, are always set in that church that I grew up in. So it's, but I loved it.
Yeah.
It's like having an extended family. We don't have that big of a family.
Yeah.
We've got a couple of grandparents, but it felt like so many people around. I mean, I'm a people person, so I loved it.
And I felt like the kids had access to people, like if we had visiting speakers, if we had our friends come to stay, I felt like the girls had time with such like amazing people, if there were missionaries from overseas or different, musicians that were coming down to do things. And so I think they had access to people that not everyone spent time with. And so that was, I always felt like
really cool,
that was a really lovely thing. They had lots of amazing role models. And then if we had staff parties at our house or staff, team barbecues.
Whenever they had elders meeting, they brought desserts.
Oh, good.
And so I used to go down and I had first pick of desserts every
the girls
every
would go
Monday.
first.
Oh, that's so good. So then has it been hard having the transition now with like empty nesting? Or is that what they call it? Yeah, empty nesting.
Do you know what? I don't think this is a part of mothering or parenting generally that is talked about enough.
Let's talk about it.
I feel let's go there.
Yeah, come on.
I might cause you some trauma.
I'm ready. Come on.
And I think when they're young, you're always like going for the next step. Or when they get to secondary school, I'll have a bit more freedom. When they're a bit older, when they drive, and then suddenly, you're longing for a day when there aren't trainers and clothes and toys everywhere.
Yeah.
And then suddenly there's not. And it's like, oh my gosh, it's huge. Because I'm not saying my only identity in life is a mother, but I live for these kids. I absolutely love them. And to not have them, I'm trying not to cry. I'm quite tired.
It's going to make me cry too. I've already cried today.
It is a grief. It is a grief. Yeah. And I think it's okay to talk about it as a grief. Because you want them to fly the nest. You want them to live independent lives. But to not know what's going on in their lives, to be stalking them on Find My Friends, to find out what they're doing, and to try not to text them all the way through the day, to let them have a life where you're not like there as much, and you're counting down the days till it's Easter, I'm going to see them, or it's and not becoming that needy mother, but so looking forward to seeing them. It is a strange thing, and also it's a phase of your life as a woman where you might be going through menopause, your parents might be getting older. There's loads of things going on in your life during that phase, so there's quite a lot of things to navigate.
It's quite rough timing, really, isn't it?
It's rough timing.
I feel like we never catch a break as women. Like, when does it, do you know what I mean? I'm like, this is out of order. Like, you have children, that's really hard. That like you have a baby in the postpartum phase.
Yeah.
And then they're toddlers and just nuts,
exhausting,
and then they're like young kids and it's like emotionally a lot going on, and they're teenagers and everybody's grumpy.
It's exam seasons,
exams, then university send them off, and then wham bam, it's like silent, and then you're sad. Like, what? It's so annoying.
I mean, there are some upsides. They pay for their own contact lenses, their own mobile phones.
Okay.
It is a good thing when those responsibilities are not yours anymore. That's good.
I think it must be like a scare, well, for me anyway, I imagine that it's a scary thought, like when your kids leave home, because that's when all that you've like sown into your kids as they're growing up really starts to bear fruit, and you see the impact of like how you've really raised your children.
Well, there's that whole thing about values being caught and not taught as well.
Yes.
And you realise, actually, I think it's Rob Parsons from Care for the Family who always says, we think that our children don't listen to us, but they're actually little sponges that absorb everything. I remember when you did nannying for a year, do you remember?
Yeah, my gap year, I was a nanny.
Gap year. And you were like, and you suddenly realise as she's looking after other children that you think
3
what
children.
your family does is normal. Yeah, 3.
You're ready.
4,
You're ready.
7 and 9. I was 18 years old.
Do you want to come and look after mine? That would be a breeze for you then. You're ready.
Anyway, carry on.
But you were like, you expect that your family you think is normal, and that every family, you're like, it doesn't work. They're behaving differently. And you thought that,
They were such good kids.
They were lovely children.
But I was like, okay, I'm now a parent.
Yeah. Hi guys, I'm just interrupting this episode of Another Mother very quickly because I wanted to show you where we've been doing all of our main sessions this week at Spring Harvest. It is here at Studio 36. This is where all of our podcast guests from this season have been sharing their inspiring teachings, leading us in heartfelt worship, and uniting us as a community in faith. So we want you to join us here at Butlins, Skegness or Minehead in April 2026. but a transformative week that will deepen your faith. So head over to springharvest.org and secure your place today. And don't forget, for Another Mother listeners, we've got an exclusive discount for you, detailed in the description below. So check that out, and we'll see you next year. So Izzy, I guess for you, how do you decide what to tell your parents and what not to tell them? Because obviously you're not really going to tell them everything, but then you do have a good relationship. So
Yeah. I don't know if I like consciously decide. It's more like what I feel. I don't know. I think I'm quite an oversharer in life anyway, and we talk quite a lot. So even like now, I probably call you a few times a week.
Yeah, when you're in the car, don't you? Give us a
In
call.
the car or like walking home or something like that. So like I do share a lot. I think there was a time where I more told you afterwards, where I wasn't telling you the like the thought process, or
We weren't getting the running commentary. It was more like the conclusion at the end.
you would tell her afterwards?
Yeah. So
Yeah.
I think I remember those moments at uni where I think when I know that I'm like, that wasn't the best decision. There was a time I like moved house and hadn't found a replacement for my like current room, ended up paying double rent for it.
Double rent, folks.
And like, oh, the uni student, do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I remember telling you,
Surprise, I've moved house.
but I'm still paying for the other one.
Yeah. That was great.
That was good.
Yeah.
And you know what, it went badly. So I was like, that's why I didn't tell you. Do you know what I mean? But that's you and Dad are quite a good balance.
Yeah.
Because you give the emotion where Dad gives the logic. You've got the think around the feeler. It's great.
Yeah, so you can pick which one to go to.
That's
That's
quite
the
helpful.
thing.
It's
Okay,
quite
that is
helpful.
good.
But I don't like how you responded. Hi, Mum. Do you know what I mean? So yeah, I don't know if I think now I probably tell you a bit more. I think like your original question of like becoming friends, I think that really does transition. I think moving out, like it was a little period of what is our relationship? What do I tell you? You mothering me? Are you a friend? But I would say our friendship, I think Naomi would say the same, my sister, that once we moved out, we became better friends. And so it's almost like since we've moved out, our friendship is built, and we probably tell you more. I mean, and say my sister calls you for hours when she's got something to talk through, and
It's a bit more distinct, isn't it, when you've got your own life rather than, it's a bit more disconnected, isn't it?
But even at uni, I think sometimes it felt a bit like, tell me everything, and you mentioned Find My Friends earlier.
So you actually got banned from Find My Friends?
Yeah.
I did.
You lost your privileges.
I did lose my privileges.
It started first with my sister,
Okay.
because she received a text from Mum that was like, why did you miss your uni lecture today?
I could, they're paying a lot of money in fees.
Yeah?
Yeah.
And I could see she was in her house, and I requested further information. That was a mistake, and I got removed from
Okay.
Find My Friends.
And then we were just aware they were watching a lot, and like, it's like, I felt like they didn't have much going. They were just like looking at us all the time.
Okay.
I think the thing is, when I went to university, there was not smartphones, and I had to kind of remind myself of that. But again, when they're 18 and you're empty nesting, it is really hard. And now that we do have technology, in some ways, I think that's made that detachment a bit harder, because it's almost like you stay quite tethered. So although it was really brutal when Naomi removed me from Find My Friends, I actually think it was helpful for me.
Yeah.
I actually think I needed to be disciplined.
Yes.
The roles had reversed, because I that tether was too strong. And technology is you can be FaceTime, you can be connecting and all the time. And actually, she needs to be at university doing things with her friends. She doesn't need me hovering from 3 hours away.
Yeah. But then I guess part of it, like as a parent, is out of your deep love for your child, like, and wanting to protect them and keep them safe. And
The intention's always there.
yeah, and I guess you know that. But then how do you, so say if Izzy was to tell you something that you were like shocker, that is dangerous, or I wouldn't ever do that, or whatever, how do you resist the temptation, especially now that she's an adult, to not kind of give too much of your opinion?
I think she
Or
just
you
gives
do
her
give your
opinion.
opinion. Okay.
Again, I said, she's the feeler and Dad's more the thinker. So Mum
Okay.
will make it very clear what she feels.
My face leaks. I
Okay.
don't
And then so does her words. And
yeah.
once the initial emotion, then she'll come back to you, and then you'll say your thoughts on it.
Yeah.
Okay.
It is, and I hope that we don't get too restrictive. But sometimes you do kind of feel like, are you sure you want to be doing that? Or, we were talking about something just yesterday and I was like, you really should do that. That's a great opportunity. And I really kicked myself afterwards because I'm like, it's not for me to decide whether that's a great opportunity. It's up to Izzy to decide whether that's a great opportunity.
Yeah.
And I can't live my life through her. She needs to decide what the right things are. But I will come to those conclusions a little bit after my mouth has said something sometimes. So I need to just, but then to which we haven't had a chance to chat since, but to come back afterwards and say, I'm really sorry if I, imposed a little bit of what I think there, obviously we're with you either way, whatever you do, like we're with you. But, fortunately they haven't done anything super catastrophic.
No.
I think actually if they did, if either of the girls did something that was like game-changingly bad, I hope that our relationship is such that although they'd be nervous to tell us, because, I hope they'd know there's always a way home.
Yeah.
If everything went wrong, there is always a way home. There's home is a safe place, and that might be a difficult conversation, but if something went really wrong, they know that we've got their back and that we're in their corner. And that, I hope you feel that anyway.
Yeah, and we talk a lot as a family. Like we process a lot, and like our dinner table was never quiet. Like we talk through everything. So I think even I'm trying to imagine that scenario. Like if we'd really upset them, we're coming to them and we'll be coming to process. I think as well. But I think so.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm sure we've probably forgotten a lot of it. Like we definitely have done things that probably like disappointed you, or you were like, what the heck are you doing? But get past it. It's life, isn't it?
Well, it is, and it's family, isn't it? And family, you have to work things through. You don't have a choice, do you, to walk away? So you have to kind of somehow kind of go, well, this is a life thing. But I also, again, just really just would want to say though that I know that we're lucky that we've got to this point, and that it's not always, that easy. And certainly some of our other family relationships are not that straightforward. And it's, you hope that you will be able to manage that, but it doesn't always work out that way. Relationships are complicated.
Yeah, they really are. And I was thinking, Izzy, about what you were saying earlier, just how you said sometimes you would wait until after the fact to then tell your parents about something, but that's almost because you know how they would respond. So there's definitely a sense then of like there's strong family values, and like you kind of know what's expected of you, you know what your parents want from you or how they might respond. And often, you know that they might feel away at the beginning, but they're always going to love you. And I think that comes back to the whole thing about the boundaries that we set, because you then set the expectation for your children as they're growing up as to like what you believe is acceptable or not. So could you just talk a bit about how you managed to like set boundaries and
it's fun, isn't it? Even when they're little, aren't they? You've got to decide what battles you're going to fight. Unless you want to live in a war zone, you have to decide there are some battles that you want to fight, some battles you don't. And I think as they get to be teenagers, that becomes a bigger issue. Yeah. Because it's very easy for everything to become a battle. So one of the things that, I talk about sometimes, I do a little bit of work with Care for the Family. One of the things we talk about a bit is knowing the difference between fences and gates. And especially as they get older, like fences are boundaries that you want to be firm and clear, that are there for their safety. Because just like you want to protect a 3-year-old for sticking their fingers in a plug, you do want to protect a teenager from hanging out with people who are taking drugs or whatever. But you also need to create fences that open, that open. So not everything needs to be a fence. There have to be gates that they can get a bit more flexibility when it's age appropriate. So, when they got older, like we knew they were going to be invited to sleepovers and parties and different things. So there were fences that had to become gates. But our strategy was always to make sure that they could get back through that gate if they needed to. So we had, for example, do you remember, we used to have what we used to call code grandma, which is that if they were at a party or something that they were not comfortable for any reason whatsoever, they could text home and say, how's grandma? And then I would call straight away and say, I'm so sorry to bother you, but grandma's really poorly. I'm going to have to come and pick you up straight away. so they could leave without losing face.
So good.
And they both did that, I think.
Yeah.
At their first party. When, you know, suddenly
one
you
of the firsts, yeah.
Well, suddenly, you know, you're surrounded by teenagers who are drinking too much and, you know, whatever, and it can be quite scary and overwhelming. And, you know, they don't want to lose face. So it's just saying, okay, we've opened a gate because you need to be able to make mistakes and to take risks while it's still a safe environment, and we can help and support you. But so, yep, we open the gate, but access back through is easy. Into the safety of home. So, and gradually as they're getting older, just opening more of those gates, really.
Which I think also helps, like, for me, making decisions of where I actually want to be and which parts I wanted to go to. Because I think I remember that group of friends that incident was. I don't know if I used code grammar or more was like, come, please pick me up. But I ended up where they went down a path that I didn't want to as much. And I think because of that ability to test it out and retreat back again means that I then had the confidence when the time came a few years later, and I was like, actually, I don't want to go at all. Don't invite me. Do you know what I mean?
Wow.
So I think like those having the freedom to test that out, but knowing that you were there if I needed you, I think probably was really vital in choosing the right.
Well, especially as Christian family, like I didn't want the first time that the girls were surrounded by parties and fun to be when they're at university.
Yeah.
When, you know, we're not there, and it's like, actually it's okay to go to parties, it's okay to have friends. You know, and we've really tried to not be too strict, but also to go, but know who you are, know what your values are, know that we're praying for you, and know that there's a way home. You know,
I remember growing up, I felt like my parents were really strict.
Really?
I know you did actually, didn't you?
We did. We used to always...
Do you think we were super strict?
I think looking back now, I'm like, fair enough, like completely fair enough. I think it was a lot of my like school friends, none of them were Christian families, and so and their parenting style was just go do whatever you want, go hang out wherever you want, and they would walk everywhere together and do sleepovers at the time and do whatever they want. Where we were like, I think also we lived a bit further out, so you had to drive us everywhere. So we had to ask permission, could we go around my friend's house? And mum's like, I can't drive you today, I've got something to do, or whatever. Yeah. So I remember feeling like you were really strict, but I think looking back now, I'm like, so fair. Like, it's a hard world out there.
It really is. Them. Yeah. No, that's so good. And I think it's when you're younger, you don't necessarily see in the moment, but you look back and appreciate it, don't you?
I think it would be like, why are you doing this? And I'm glad that you did stick at it and was like, no, this is what we want to. Like, I'm wondering if that took intentionality. I'm not really sure, but
well, I mean, sleepovers were the worst.
Oh, like gosh, you would,
I think there was just a real shocking. You know, it was a real revelation to us. Like, lovely families. I mean, good. I mean, I don't want to be funny. That lovely families. But just realising that other people's values and what they do in their home, the videos that they were watching, the games that they were playing, you know, when they were early teens, were not things that we would have had in our house. So, and you're suddenly going, oh, okay, you know, and all the research says, especially with smartphones, your child is as safe as the most unsafe child in the playground, really.
Wow.
So you've got to decide whether you have, which we did. I did the brave thing where I talked to the other parents and was just like, we just need to get this stuff out on the table. And I'll say, you know, they're not 18. So, you know, I don't want them watching stuff that's not 18. And to start with, I think a couple of the other mums were like, I cannot believe you know, I think they felt quite judged.
Really?
But then actually loads of other, and it was mainly mums at that point, were like, I'm so glad you had this conversation and let's all agree on this together. But it was, I mean, I you know, it was a bit of a risk.
I didn't know you did that.
Yeah, we did. Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that takes a lot of courage, because that is like, oof, you don't know how people are going to respond, but you had to do what was right.
Well, and I just decided also that, because sleepovers, I think for girls as well, is a big thing, that we kind of reduced the number that we said yes to, but also we just did some stuff around our house instead. So we would host things, or we would do days out with friends, so they didn't feel like they were missing out all the time, and there were fun things. But, you know, I just didn't necessarily want them watching horror films when they were 13 years old, or, you know, or whatever. So, again, it's not about being a control freak and being authoritarian. I don't want to advocate for that.
But also at the same time with children,
Yeah, you
Yeah.
are children, so it's not abdicating responsibility either, and
We
it's
just don't actually
attention, isn't it?
Yeah. And also being willing to make the sacrifice, because like I think for me growing up, looking back now, we always had people at our house, and that was definitely an intentional decision by my
Yeah.
parents to be like, you can have your friends around whenever you want, but they come to our house.
Yeah.
And so like obviously for me I thought, oh, fun, but I didn't realize until now that like that would have come at such a cost to my parents, in terms of that is annoying, like constantly having like teenagers in your house, like eating all your food.
And were they doing
sleeping
that
in
deliberately so that
Yeah,
you were, that's
yeah.
interesting.
Yeah, because they wanted to, just that thing of not necessarily trying to be controlling, but being able to take responsibility where they can and where there was an option to, but knowing that it was going to be at a cost to them, and making it fun for us, and not being like, oh, it's so annoying with your friends around or whatever, but just, opening their home in that way. And I think that probably saved me from a few horrors, I'm guessing.
Well, it enables you to get to know their friends as well.
Yeah.
And actually in a good way, to really kind of like be curious about their friends, get to know about their friends' problems, get to know about their friends' families. And,
Yeah.
oh, why do you like that person? Or what's the issue with that person? And, so that, again, it doesn't become like they've got another world that you don't know anything about, but just trying to engage with their crew and kind of get to know them a little bit. I
It
think
means you get all the gossip, which is good fun.
I loved the gossip.
Yes.
Oh yeah, dinner time. It was like, oh, tell us the drama of the day.
But even like now, you've met the majority of all my friends.
Yeah.
Which also feels a bit rare, considering I'm
Yeah.
an adult. But I think church, like we all cross over a lot. Some of them even here at Spring Harvest and stuff like that. But you really, when I'm talking about my days and I'm talking about my friends, you genuinely know I spent time with and have a relationship with my friends, which feels really special.
That is special.
Yeah.
I love that.
I like it keeps me young. I like, she said, like an old fossil. But
Keeps me young.
I love hanging out with, this age group. They're brilliant. They're so full of passion. They've got so much to give. They're such fun to be with. It's good for me as well.
Oh, I love that. Well, no, thank you so much, guys. This conversation has just filled my heart with hope, actually. What I was going to say with joy. It's filled it with joy, but also hope that I think I'm going to have a good relationship with my kids growing up. I'm just going to claim it now.
You
They're
are.
I'm going to be a fun mum forever, hopefully. But no, thank you so much just for sharing so honestly and sharing your experiences, because I do think it is an encouragement. And these aren't conversations that we get to have very often. So thank you so much.
It's so great being with you.
Thank you. Bye, guys. Thank you so much for watching that episode of Another Mother. I hope that you enjoyed it just as much as I did. What a duo they are, Cathy and Izzy. And it really gave me so much hope for my own relationship with my kids as they get bigger, that it just can be so beautiful and there can be so much honesty and trust between you. So yeah, if you would like to share this episode with a friend or with somebody that you think would appreciate it, please do. And we will see you in 2 weeks' time for another episode of Another Mother.